Well, that brings us to the last session of today, and a topic that is, of course, extremely relevant in our industry, online learning, which is, of course, made possible through digital solutions. So I'd like to introduce or bring the panel to the stage, please. Moderator Courtney Gillen, Alexander Zeltov, both from Educate Online, Karas Kikne from Study Portals, and Tobias Freund from Tomorrow University. Good luck. Yours.
Oh, that's it? That's the only introduction.
Yep, that's it.
Thank you for sticking through until the end. We appreciate the long couple of days that we've had here, so thank you for coming. Today we're going to talk about online programs and international education, a digital match, a nice way to finish the conversations that we've had over the past couple of days. My name is Courtney Gillen, and I've been in the international education realm for almost 22 years now. It seems to be a little long. And I'm joined today by my esteemed colleagues, Tobias from Tomorrow University. I'll give you a second to say hello, Tobias, if you'd like.
Yes, hello.
Perfect. I know Alex may say more. My colleague Alex from the CEO of Educate Online and also a Forbes 30 Under 30 recipient.
Hello. I hope you hear me. It's such a big pleasure to be here. We'll make sure to be the last but not least tonight.
And Cara, Senior Editor of Study Portals.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I think that's a good goal.
quick and easy. So we have a few things to go through today. So we're going to start off with just a couple of slides to kind of do an overview of the topic, and then we'll dive into some polls and some questions with the panel. And so in terms of the future of education, one of the reasons I joined online education after being in traditional setting for about 18 years was because of the access that we can provide to learners online that we can't do in person. And so I would be traveling to India and China and all these countries and meeting these wonderful kids that had absolutely no hope of getting a study visa, no hope of getting the funds to study abroad. And so online education is an excellent resolution for that. And so in terms of the evolution of learning, the digital technologies have opened the door to new education delivery formats and have increased the appeal, quality, and sustainability. And Tobias is going to talk a little bit about sustainability later for us. Educate Online is also a carbon neutral company, so we do keep that in mind when we're looking at delivering education. And so for online learning and international ed, before the pandemic, students would take courses that would complement their learning. So for example, I worked with a group that had schools in Korea and Russia at the K-12 level, and those students would take courses like AP courses or SAT prep courses online because the schools didn't offer them. And then the pandemic came and all traditional learning turned to online learning. And it absolutely replaced any of the traditional options, and sometimes in a very ineffective way. And following the pandemic, we are seeing that people still have this mindset that the online learning needs to replace the traditional learning, which in fact it does not. It can complement it very well and does a great job to prepare students for their studies overseas. And so things like the university pathway programs, which we would traditionally see a student going overseas to learn language and then going into a university and doing, maybe 1 year or 2 years extra overseas, they can now do that online, and they can save from $20,000 to $40,000 by doing that 1 or 2 years online instead. And so some of the benefits of doing online learning, of course, one of the number one benefits is that it's 24/7. And customizable. So students around the globe can study with teachers from the US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, anywhere, and can do that at any time of day that's convenient for them, as well as customizing the program. My mindset is mostly in the K-12 sector, so I kind of think of they can take US courses, Canada courses, UK courses, and all combine it into one diploma. So if there's things that they would like to take from one curriculum to the other, it makes it a little bit more enjoyable. Access worldwide, of course, affordability, And so if a student, again, if it's going to do 4 years of high school overseas, it may cost upwards of $200,000 US. If they want to do those 4 years online, it might cost $25,000 US. So it's a huge difference and a great savings for kids that want to maybe save those monies to go into the post-secondary education world. And we're seeing that in Brazil, where students in Brazil would go for 5 months to Canada or the US and study in university or in high school, are now doing some of their high school studies online and then saving that study abroad experience for the university level. Faculty is a huge one. So if you think of any university or high school or language school around the world, they're really kind of limited to the faculty that are around, in the 50-mile radius of that school. And with online, you alleviate that issue. You can have students, for example, China has been closed for almost 3 years now. There's no English-speaking teachers left. And so China can use teachers online to deliver lessons and still have that high quality. Learner engagement and AI, many sort of initiatives in that realm, things from talk tracking and seeing how much kids are talking in class, etc. And then hard and soft skill development. And so jumping a little bit of the statistics, that we've seen a lot of great things coming out of COVID, and we've been able to really study what works in online. And the learner retention, we found that's between 25 and 60% for online versus 8 to 10% for traditional. And I think the reason for that, it has to do with the platform availability. So if you think of in a traditional setting, when you're studying and you're making notes and you get to exam time and you're trying to review those notes and you have no idea what you were talking about. If you have the online setting, you can go back, you can review the recordings, you can review the lecture notes, you can chat with other classmates in the chat room. So it really allows for a lot better ways to retain that knowledge. And so thus we found that online learners score an average of 15 to 30% higher on tests. And again, this is for the K-12 level. And that could be related as well to that retention and ability to review the platforms. There was also a study on US college students, and they attributed higher grades, 81%, as a result of online learning. And 3.2 million students are studying online in the US at the K-12 level. And so this has gone up by 500,000 just in the past 5 months. And so we do see that the numbers are jumping rapidly. This I thought was interesting. This was in the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago, that 1.5 million fewer students are enrolled in US college university degree programs now than before the pandemic. And that might be for a number of reasons, economics, politics, also visa issues, whatnot. But we have seen a bit of a dip, and Cara from Study Portals was kind enough to put together some data for us, showing the increase in demand for online degrees, which has surged. So you can see in the past 4 years there, it's really taken a good jump. And trends for online short courses, top destinations, US, UK, which makes sense. Traditionally, some of the most popular markets for overseas study abroad. So it makes sense that the online short courses are of interest there as well. You see them coming out of Harvard or Birmingham or other universities that are already quite popular. And then the top origin countries, which is quite interesting. Also, you see India, of course, and interesting to me is Nigeria, Vietnam, and Brazil. These are some of our key markets that we see are booming at the moment. And so we're watching those closely on the interest level. Trends for online degree courses, again, top destinations, UK, whether it's in person or online, it seems to be the #1 choice this year. And the top origin countries, again, India topping out. We noticed that the absence of China, I'm not sure if China can't access study portals. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought maybe. So China might be in there as well, but has limited access. And so again, Nigeria, Vietnam, Indonesia. We've seen a huge growth in Africa, and probably you have as well, since the end of the pandemic, as a lot of the online program interests, more affordable, don't have to be concerned about study permits and relocating. And so there's a lot of outsource opportunities, both for schools and education agents. At the K-12 level, I mentioned kind of Nigeria and Vietnam, and one of the things that we're doing there is the dual diploma. So the Canadian high school diploma or the US high school diploma in conjunction with their local diploma. So in Nigeria, for example, we're working with a school where the Nigerians will finish their WIAC, and at the same time, they're doing their grade 12 courses for Canada. So when they finish, they have both diplomas and they can go on, get better access to universities or better access to scholarships, etc. Subject variety also, and so if you look at countries like Brazil, which has quite a limited number of courses that students have access to for their high school diploma particularly, with us, they can study up to about 200 courses, and that's with the US system. So if they want to be introduced to different career fields like nursing or coding or even film or television, they can kind of try those out as a complement to their learning. And then counseling and internships as well. I've already spoken a little bit about faculty, and I think with language schools, one of the top features would be the access to native English speakers, which can be challenging when countries are closed and quarantines are in place and people are traveling as much. And then at the college and university level, online and hybrid courses, asynchronous learning across time zones. So students are able to work and study and build, they become more in control of what they're actually learning and how they're doing it. Woo! So that's my bit. Now we'll get into the discussion. And the first thing we want to do is start off with a quick poll. And so if you have the card near you and you want to take a scan of the QR code with your phone, we can do a poll here. So looking at employers and universities should value a digital or online diploma equal to or equivalent in-person diploma. Sorry, I may have messed up the English there. So absolutely, probably, not sure, probably not, absolutely not. Thoughts on this statement from the panel? Tobias, any thoughts there?
Yeah, but I don't want to influence your answer. but I think considering the skill gap that is to come for future skills that we need in our society, considering technologies, considering green jobs, etc., I think we are lacking so many talents at the moment in the workforce. If we don't go for absolutely, we are facing huge problems already, and in 5 years' time, even more. So for me, the answer is clear, but I don't want to influence you.
Well, we might have to go with a show of hands. Our poll isn't working at the moment.
Okay.
So let's get a show of hands. The value of the digital diploma equal or equivalent to an in-person diploma? Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Probably. Couple. Not sure. Probably not. Absolutely not. Okay, good. Well, interesting. Alex, any thoughts on those findings there?
Oh, wow. The first live poll I've seen in my life. That was great. Thank you. All right. So I guess when we are interviewing people at Educate Online, for example, we actually don't look at the diploma, we look at the skill set. And it's a question more, are the students obtaining the skills and the knowledge required to for the work in the companies and for the develop professionally? And as long as the online programs, there's many, but if you actually look and check that it's not only about kind of study this, submit this essay, but it's actually more about the soft skills and other skills that are invaluable to students, then it's an absolutely amazing choice. And as usual, in both online and offline world, it will depend on the program that the students do. I think previously, just in the whole economy, our parents did that. They became accountants, then they've been accountants all their life, but now things have changed. If we study one thing at university, we might do something completely different in 5-10 years, which is all right. So it's about skills and upgrading them. And I'm sure that you'll choose the best courses for your students or for your schools.
Yeah. Is there a risk, do you think, Cara, that like any of these online programs will cannibalize kind of university degree programs?
I don't think there is. I think after the pandemic, we saw that on-campus programs have now stabilized and online programs are continuing to become more and more and more popular. So there's been a surge of about 50% of interest in online programs over the past year. and that has not done anything to damage interest in on-campus programs. And I think given, the disconnect between the number of people who want and need to access education for those skills and those that are enrolled on campus, and then also, to your point, having to continually upskill over the course of your lifetime, I think there's a definite need for these online programs. I think, I would vote absolutely to the poll.
That's a great segue into learning a little bit more about Tomorrow University, which is a well-fitted name to what's happening today. And you deliver more of a challenge-based learning. So what is the difference between the approach that you do at Tomorrow University and kind of more of a traditional approach?
Yes, challenge-based learning definitely means that it's the opposite of like frontal learning, as we have seen it so far. And 99% of learning still takes place like frontal learning. You have got content, sometimes better, sometimes worse, distributed. But the thing is, you only learn until you got tested in some way ever. And challenge-based learning puts the problem in the first spot. And we just, as a university, give the framework to deliver to students a way to create milestones and steps to reach that challenge and to overcome it with prototypes, with pitches, to give solutions. And the biggest difference, what I didn't know before starting with Tomorrow University myself, was that when I learn content, I just learn something by heart most of the times. And that's why I forget it. By learning with an obstacle, with a problem, I basically learn skills, competencies, and those you don't lose afterwards. So you can adapt it and put it into a different topic as well. And I think that's, yes, building skills for the future is one of the biggest challenge in learning. And I think we incorporate that quite well.
I agree. That's good. The most important is having those skills available once you're finished your program. And there's other, universities like yourself that do those challenge programs and really encourage students to learn physically, and also internships. There's internship programs nowadays that you can do virtually. So students don't need to kind of also try to find their own, but don't need to go overseas or move location in order to do a co-op or an internship. It's available virtually. So that's great. And Alex, you've done some virtual internships with Educate Online. You want to tell us a little bit about those and how that process went?
Basically, okay, honest answer. So we've done internships ourselves. That was a bit of a mess because you can't do too many things good at once. So there's a company called Virtual Internships. They've been at ICEF, and we decided to partner with them and to integrate whatever they do in our programs. And I guess one of the insights for us is that if someone's good at something, like virtual internships, for example, it's best to work with them rather than try to create the wheel ourselves. And right now, as you've mentioned about the skills, and I've mentioned about the skills as well, I guess one of the things for us as entrepreneurs, as business leaders, is to see what kind of opportunities are there, what are the opportunities available, because a lot of the things you don't have to build yourself anymore. You can just put them together as Lego blocks, whether it's a study program or whether it's the value proposition for the customer.
Yes, and we've seen a lot of solutions today and over the past several days for digital options that are available. Shall we go to the next poll? I'm not sure if it's going to work. We're doing hands up. Okay, so thanks to technology, the barrier between in-person and digital learning is disappearing. I've got three options here. True, the future of education is a natural blend of in-person and digital. I'm going to read through them first. I guess that's what Meta is all about. And nonsense, no matter the technology, in-person and digital remain mutually exclusive. Do we have votes for number one? So true, the future of education is a natural blend of in-person and digital. Excellent. I guess that's what Meta is all about. And nonsense, no matter the technology, in person and digital will remain mutually exclusive. We need to get this audience on this side over to ours. Okay, so Cara, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think the future of education is that natural blend. And I think there's a lot of practices from online education during the pandemic that now are forming part of hybrid courses and on-campus courses because they work so well. I think there's different modes of teaching and learning that actually are great to complement in-person education.
Mhm.
Yeah, like asynchronous learning as well, to give you that flexibility. Yeah.
Tobias,
But
any
I'd be
further
keen
comments?
to, yeah. So looking at
I-
Tobias.
I tend to the second, but only when it comes to education, because I think education can take place fully remote. I think to learn just in itself. I think the other part is the social part that, you know, we all got grown up with. University is something social, something to get together. I think it doesn't necessary to be detached from that, but I think, you know, still learners will group together somehow, even online or offline. So I think we have to differentiate between learning and socializing in that space.
I'm going to go to Alex as well. The next question kind of is related to that. So if students can learn language, high school, college, university online, why not do everything online? What is the benefit? Tobias has mentioned the social benefits. What are some of the other benefits that students can have by choosing a blended option?
I guess one of the things is that we're just natural human beings, and especially now during the ICEF event, we see kids are human beings, students are human beings, we are human beings. So we come to ICEF and we work ourselves, we work with our teams in our locations. And then when you come to ICEF, you feel this cumulative energy. And I think for the students, it's really important to feel that and to share ideas, to maybe challenge each other, to see maybe some role models in a good way, so to say, maybe to have something to aspire towards, because here are some great companies and great agencies and great schools. And I guess for the students, it's really important to combine the two. And luckily, for example, in the K-12 segment currently, the students can study in their school offline and maybe do the international curriculum online. And I would add to this that it's really key for the students to know how to network, and that's one of the skills. And I do understand that Meta might change this whole thing, but if you look at Meta shares over the past 2 weeks, the market doesn't really believe that. The market thinks that their product is not ready yet. So I guess it will be not a revolution, but a gradual evolution of the offering. And that's why it's important not to forget about the offline stuff.
Mhm. And I think you mentioned ICEF and being here and in person. I think we all used to travel and go and visit agent offices and meet with students in person. Deals seem to happen a little bit faster than now just dealing online and Zoom. It's hard to make that connection. So I think having that blend so students can make connections with other students. So in the UK, for example, we work with a summer school, Samiad, and students can go and be physically on that campus, and then they can return home, and they're still in classrooms learning language with the same students, same teachers, but they've made that personal connection, which allows them, I guess, to work together a little bit more and a little bit more frequently. So what are some of, I'm going to move to Kara now, what are some of the trends that we're seeing in online programs since COVID? Are there
I think
new things that are coming up?
Yeah, there has been the surge in online programs, particularly at a master's level. I think it's about 70% up year on year. And we've seen short courses fall off a little bit for online. I don't know if that's something that people in the audience have seen. Yeah, like I mentioned, the on-campus courses I think have stabilized. So there's not a big difference from pre-pandemic. We haven't seen the interest in online actually cannibalizing from the on-campus interest.
Can you notice in terms of topics, like which subjects might be more of interest? Can you see that on study portals, whether people are leaning towards law or economics or more of IT?
Yes, yeah, we can. And just to say, on study portals, we've got 52 million students that use our platform to search. We've got 90% of the English taught programs in the world listed. So it gives a really good overview at quite a granular level of what they're looking at, which subdisciplines from which countries, for which destinations. And we see there's a big surge in some technology-related subjects, actually, like computer human interaction and AI. Those are definitely gaining popularity to an extent that the supply of on-campus programs actually can't keep up with the demand.
Interesting. We are done with our questions. We move to a Q&A, possibly, and see what the audience thinks. We have about 10 minutes left. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes. Do you need a mic? Run. Oh, yeah, exactly.
1 second. Hi, my name is Haitam Jayat. I'm from the Middle East. A question: how do you deal with accreditation when K-12 high school?
So for the K-12 high school, all of the schools that are offering the online programs are fully accredited, either through WASC or Cognia or one of the other accreditation bodies. And so when students graduate with their high school diploma looks nearly identical, or I would almost exactly identical as to the one as if they studied in the traditional classroom. So there's no difference really in the objectives and what they need to accomplish.
And can you share like some trends from which countries that's growing market for the high
high school? Yeah, for online high school, we're seeing a lot of growth out of Africa, particularly. So Nigeria, Kenya, as well as the Middle East a little bit. We're starting to see more coming out of the Middle East. So UAE, as well as Bahrain, that's actually being.
There's no conflict with the local accreditation with the government?
There's no conflict with the local accreditation. I know that's an issue in the Middle East if you want to open an international school, but the students can still study the national program and do the international program at the same time.
And can they study with the local university, or they must be abroad?
That likely not. I mean, if they would need to finish their national program in the Middle East in order to study with the local university, I think that's a restriction within the Middle East specifically. But for the most part, most countries, so if students want to go study in Ireland, UK, Canada, US, Australia, they can use the diploma. Yeah, thank you so much. Any other questions? ICEF at the back.
Hi. Do you see any trends in how these courses are being delivered? I know some people have decided to do them synchronously, asynchronously, in lockstep, and lots of people tried different ways during the pandemic.
Yes.
Which is trending as a kind of successful way to deliver these kind of online courses maybe across the levels?
I think it can be student dependent, but I'll pass to Alex.
I want to pass to Tobias.
Cara.
We are going into the World Cup soon, so.
So what we do and what we find quite successful is to have both asynchronous most of the time, so people can learn their own pace, with synchronous parts. Again, that refers to the part that we had before, the socializing act, getting together in a group, even though digitally. So this gives a feeling of belonging, which to our students is quite important. I mean, we have one factor that I didn't mention. So we are focusing on sustainability and technology. And these are like for us the main drivers in the next decades. So this already brings people together with a certain purpose that are coming. So that's why we try to have synchronous parts to bring them together, because then we see much better results also in the learning and in the results in the exams. And
similar in K-12, Alex, for?
Yeah, I guess right now the synchronous format gives you 90% year-on-year retention for students, especially in the high school segment. If you look at asynchronous, it's hard to tell, maybe 70 or 80% year-on-year retention. But we as a company will try to experiment, because if you want to make education affordable, you have to bring the costs down. In order to bring the costs down, you have to have recorded sessions and not live sessions. And now we're trying to figure out where is this middle ground, so to say. So how do we make it as affordable as possible for the students, and how do we have this retention? Because retention here equals success. And when they're studying in schools, it's super important for them to graduate. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and kind of on that point with the connection of balancing the synchronous and asynchronous. So when we're in, talking to agents or schools in Nigeria, and we say, okay, well, you can do an online degree and it's $18,000. Well, no, that doesn't work. So we have different flexible points where you can bring it down to being an asynchronous program matched with a synchronous program, and you can get kind of between 3,500 and 6,000, which makes it more affordable for that region. So it allows for some diversity.
Rod from ICEF. It's great to hear that there are traditional on-site schools in the K-12 sector innovating and adding online programs for their students. Roughly how many of the K-12 physical schools are offering educate online programs to their students, and which are the main countries where that's happening?
So in Canada, both Canada, the US, they offer some online and in-person programs. Canada is tricky because they're restricted by only the province of Ontario, which can offer online learning. And so that makes many of the other provinces in Canada quite upset that they can't do so. But it's nice to have that opportunity for students so they can do the online learning. They can go and do a semester abroad. They're still getting that experience overseas without having to spend the huge amount of dollars. And similarly in the US, we have programs that do offer that balance as well. Hello.
Hi there. Thanks very much for the panel discussion. My name is Amr, Canada. Polytechnics and college-based learning, I've always wondered about how that fits into online learning, because I feel that there's a bit of a disconnect, and I feel that when we discuss online learning, we're really implicitly talking about the business and the liberal arts and the humanities, but there's a whole host of programming, and you will know college-based learning accounts for the vast majority of post-secondary credentials in Canada. So what about those culinary programs, those aviation programs, and so on? How are you lab-based, the multi-million-dollar investments that governments and colleges make in those labs and those campus facilities? How do you pair that together with online learning? Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be some portion. I keep answering all these questions. Always going to be some portion of learning that can be done online. So it might not be the whole program. Obviously, a culinary program, you need to be quite hands-on, and many of the engineering programs. There are some VR technologies that I know Alex and Microsoft have been looking into together to allow a lot of that, machine work and getting your hands dirty, you can do virtually. A friend of mine works for a company in Canada called Race Rocks, and they do all of the military training. So when they're learning how to fly a helicopter, when engineers are learning how to install the oxygen masks, it's all done virtually. So I think there's still a lot of those things that can be done virtually with a mix of the in-person too.
All right. Any other questions? On that case, I have one. What's your prediction, or maybe you have noticed something? What's going to be the global outcome for more affordable and more digital education around the globe?
Passing to Tara.
So I think there are a lot of sort of new models of ultra accessible education coming up, like universities like yours, where it's allowing a lot more people to access education. So there's about 1 billion people who want to study and don't have the access. I think, this is not going to replace the students that want to go and do a 3-year or 4-year bachelor degree in a different country, but I think it'll just open the door for a lot more people to actually have access to education. So I think generally the digital education for me is a good thing. That's something I'd like to see more of.
So does this mean that the market will become larger, so the pie becomes bigger?
I hope so.
And that means that's good news for all of us.
Yeah, I think also I see many businesses now moving to a more open approach to the talent market. So, like talking about Germany, for instance, I mean, now it's getting more and more common that companies open up for English-speaking people, people working abroad. So this is also a change that will embrace new ways of learning at the same time and merge the talent pool all over the world.
Thank you.
Yeah. It
Maybe you could
can do.
My question, is the price play a big role in the criteria if it's face-to-face or online?
It's also country specific too. So some countries are more affordable than others. So when I mentioned the Canadian diploma price, if it's online, it's $6,000, let's say max to do it. If you do it in person,
Compared to in person?
yeah, it's going to be about 15,000 would be kind of the entry point for doing an online 1 year of high school.
But there is also another thing to add, and it's about the price points in the market. So if you look at India, for example, the average private school tuition fee in India would be $3,000 to $4,000 for the whole year, everything inclusive. If you look at United Arab Emirates, the average is 8,000 to 9,000, and that means that if the program, whichever program, just costs, let's say, $1,000, and if you add it to 8,000 or 9,000, it's just 10,000, 10% increase. But if you add it to a $3,000 or $4,000 ticket, you add 1,000 there, and it's 20% increase already. So it depends there on the market. Since we're all about making education accessible and affordable, we have to look at every specific market how we can make that happen. Because for some people, yeah, 5K, 10K, 1K, for some people this doesn't matter. But for a lot of the people all over the world, it's a big issue.
One more. They
Sorry,
keep coming.
Yeah, sorry.
We have time. We have time.
Sorry. Just a quick one, if I may. I'm just curious about, I mean, obviously when we're talking about delivering online education internationally, I appreciate the points made about synchronous as opposed to asynchronous learning. But for when it comes to synchronous learning, one of the obvious challenges is just working across time zones, right? Or even for a particular cohort, working across multiple time zones. I'm just curious if the panel has any observations of like really innovative solutions or approaches that providers have taken to dealing with just that particular practical issue.
Yeah, some schools, for example, we work with a school in New Zealand quite closely, and they have put timetables that kind of suit the whole world, and that's great. And so, students in China can study with kind of an Asia cohort, and then we've got the Middle Eastern cohort, and then a South and North America cohort, which is wonderful. And then other schools, might just offer a UK or Middle Eastern time zone, and so kids are up late in Asia to take classes and for that school. But then we have another option for them so that they don't have to do that. So with all of the online options that are available, it's always reasonable that they'll be studying at a normal time. It depends on the school, but for a live class, usually it's about 8 to 12 students in a live class. You can't have them too big, obviously, because you still need to have that interaction.
Tobias, have you seen how do your timetables work? I'm just curious.
He's like, oh gosh.
So the feedback from learners was that mixing them up from different time zones also enriched the group. So talking about diversity. So yeah, clustering in different time zones makes sense, especially for those working at the same time to organize themselves. But for those learners that come privately and can organize themselves a bit more freely, I think the diversity of learning in a global space is very appealing. And especially talking about like the world's south, to have a learning peer group that is also from the world's north and to mix them up. I think that's also the way we have to think in the future to I take the word embrace, yeah, but it's embracing a new way of learning with different cultural backgrounds. We're not, sticking in our own environment anymore and thinking border. So we have to think and work borderless, and that's also when it comes to learning. That's not just my take.
Yes, yeah, I agree.
I've noticed, I don't know if Cara, maybe you have data, but I'll just express my point of view. Basically, when we ask the teachers, because we have lots of teachers engaged online, we ask, where are you at this moment? The teachers are from US, Canada, and the UK. And they are in Bali, Vietnam, South Africa, wherever. Because when the pandemic was really big all over the world, the teachers understood that they might not want to pay rent in New York or somewhere. They can enjoy a very luxurious life with their salary somewhere in Asia, for example. And I think teachers became influencers in some sort of way, shape, and form. They have social media. They have there's superstar teachers who are making millions now. But also, teachers became very mobile. So that means that if you have lessons happening somewhere in Asia, you can actually get an American teacher to teach them live, and it won't be 2 a.m. in the morning for that teacher. So yeah. Do you have do you
No.
see any data on teacher mobility at the
No, we
moment?
don't have data on teacher mobility. Yeah. But that makes a lot of sense.
All right.
We might need to do that.
Yeah.
All right, you can come up now, I think. Oh, no,
Yeah,
Craig has another one. No.
Craig, thank you so much, Cara, Alex, Tobias, and Courtney. That was really
Thank you.
interesting how on-site and digital are blending together. And of course, you still be around for a little bit for some more questions. But this closes, thank you very much, the final session of today. You can be very proud of yourselves. A full day of sessions after 3 days of ICEF Berlin. We've gone through digital transformation, digital recruitment, digital marketing, digital services. 5 minutes, 5 facts, and I actually have 1 minute, 1 fact, and that 1 fact is a number, 1,376. Courtney, what is that? 1,376 times we've used the word digital in today's here on this stage today. And I just added another one, so that's 1377. I have a date for you. 3rd of November. So again, I appreciate you adding this day after ICEF Berlin. Next year, we're having the ICEF Berlin Digital Day, which we'll then call ICEF Digital. Not one day, but the day before ICEF Berlin. So 3 November, Friday, is ICEF Digital. And then 4 November is a Saturday to recover from this. And then 5th of November, we kick off with the conventional ICEF Berlin, and I hope to see you there. This session ends, but we're not done yet. We've got drinks and bites waiting for you. And let's have a chat over a drink then, rather than over in front of a screen or in front of all these lights, and relax a little bit. Thank you very much.
May I say one more thing before we go?
Thank you.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to recognize Martin for his work with online. It's been fantastic. I think he's really been driving this forward for ICEF. And so thank you and kudos to you for this day.
Thank you.
Thank you, ICEF team.
Appreciate it. That's very sweet. Thank
Sorry.
you.
And maybe
All right.
Rod was just going to say that because he was standing up.
Any questions?
Thank you. What a great event. High five.
Thank you. Thank you very much.